So just before we kick things off as well, we just asked that whilst Richard and I are presenting this information to you all, if you can just keep yourselves on mute so that everybody can hear everything clearly. We will have the opportunity for people to ask questions at the end. So please write them down and we'll be sure to answer them for you when we get there. Alrighty, I'll hand things over to Richard and he'll get us started.
I'll just say there's a little chat here. So if you have a question halfway through, you can just write in the chat and then we can get to it at the end. Cool. Can everyone hear me? Is that all good? Cool. All right. So I just thought I would introduce myself. So my name's Richard. I've been working at Metro City Realty for 5 years now. I started as an assistant property manager, then a senior property manager, and now I'm a client services manager where I help landlords maximize their return on their properties.
Excellent. I'll introduce myself quickly as well. So my name is Shelby Tucker. I'm also one of the investment service managers here at Metro City. I first started in real estate back in 2017 as a receptionist. I've since worked my way through numerous roles in the property management department, such as leasing officer and property management. And I've now been working in the investment services role for about 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, and so today we've just put together a webinar specifically for property owners, investors and landlords who just want to stay informed about the recent upcoming reforms with legislation. We hope to that this can clarify the changes for you so we can so you can have an understanding of what's happening all in one place today. So we will start with the legislation that came in at the end of last year and then move to the legislation that's coming in May this year. And then at the end, we have some steps that can help minimize and navigate any risks for you. Then we'll do a question and answer at the very end. So that's when you can always also put something in the chat there if you think of something along the way, if you don't want to remember it.
Perfect. So I'll kick things off with a recap of the reforms that came into effect in September last year. So starting with those reforms, we had rental bonds are now capped at a maximum of 4 weeks rent. So prior to this, if you had a rental income of $700 or more, you were able to request a higher bond. Moving forward, we can only do a maximum of 4 weeks rent. So the reason why they've done this is just to make things fairer for tenants and also so tenants can budget accordingly. The only sort of implications for owners is just to be more mindful of your tenant selection. If you feel a tenant could possibly do damage greater than 4 weeks bond, I wouldn't recommend putting them in, and I'd probably look at other avenues of securing another tenant. Next up, we have a minimum of 2 payment options and 1 must be fee-free. So a lot of agencies are now using direct debit platforms that will charge the tenant a fee every time they make a rental payment. So anybody that is using one of these platforms does just need to put in writing or written notice to their tenants prior to the tenant moving into that property to let them know. Here at Metro City, all the payment options that we offer are completely free for tenants. Next up, we have utility bills must be passed on within 4 weeks. So what this means for any owners that are passing the bills on, that are receiving the bills and then passing them on to the agent, or any lessors that are directly passing the bills on to the tenants, you just need to make sure that you do so immediately so that you don't risk missing out on passing on these charges to the tenants. For any of our landlords from Metro City that have joined us tonight, we do offer a free service as part of our management where you can organise for the bills to be directed to our agency. This way, we can ensure payment is made promptly Any charges are passed on to the tenant accordingly. And on the plus side, they're all part of your end of financial year statement as well. And this doesn't just have to be bills that are passed on to the tenant. This can include bills such as like your rates notice and your levies as well. So if this is something that you're interested in having us set up for you, feel free to reach out to Richard and I, and we can organise that. Next up, we have claims against rental bonds must be substantiated. So what this means is when substantiated, they need to have proper evidence such as photos, invoices, and inspection reports. And any claims or disputes against the bonds must be made within 14 days. So most proactive agents are already sort of covering that first step by substantiating the bond with proper evidence, as it does minimize disputes and help streamline the vacate process. What can be more challenging for us is that we do have to have this evidence within 14 days. So sometimes it can be a bit of a challenge when we're wanting a trades assessment, we're wanting quotes, or we're needing invoices from trades. But what we've done as an agency is we've reached out to all of the trades that we regularly use. We've let them know of this new legislation, and now moving forward, if we ever need them to quote on something for us or do work for a vacating tenant, we make sure that they're aware, and then they can promptly attend to this to assist us in hopefully having the information we need within this 14-day period. One thing I also wanted to highlight now on those claims being substantiated would be just making sure that you have a thorough entry condition report, as it is essential when it comes to substantiating claims. A well-documented report should always have detailed written comments for every room. It should have the check boxes for cleanliness, undamaged and working, and should have supportive photos to go with those written comments as well. If you don't currently have a copy of your current tenancy's entry condition report, I highly recommend requesting it from your agent. For those landlords that are joining us, if you're not already aware, you can access a copy of your current report in your owner portal. And then lastly, we have reletting costs for break of lease is limited based on lease duration. So I have popped a little bit of a table there to give you a bit of an understanding of what that means. But essentially, moving forward, if a tenant was to exit their agreement early or break their lease, we are now limited on the amount that we can charge that tenant based on the length of agreement that is left. So previously, when a tenant did break their lease, we were able to pass on charges such as the letting fee, the advertising, and we were able to charge them up until a new tenant moved in. Now we are only able to charge the tenant based on what the remaining lease term, and we're also unable to no longer claim advertising cost or the letting fee, unfortunately. So unfortunately, the government has felt that this new legislation is fairer on tenants, but the implication is that it can sometimes put you as landlords at a financial loss. There's not a lot that we can sort of recommend in this department, but what we can say is be selective, or try to be selective of the tenants that you are putting into the property. Obviously, as property managers, we don't have crystal balls. We can't predict who's going to be a long-term tenant, or we can't predict if their circumstances are going to change. But some things that you can look out for when making a decision on choosing a tenant is why they're looking to move to the area or why they're looking to move properties, their reason for leaving their past property, and how long they spent at their previous property can sometimes be indicators as to whether or not they're going to be a long-term tenant. So a couple of things to think of moving forward now when it comes to choosing the next tenancy for your property. Perfect. I'll pass over to Richard to go through the upcoming reforms.
Yep. So the next list is for ones coming in on the 1st of May for this year. So that's only 5 weeks away. So he's sort of getting closer and closer. So the first one just comes with the entry notices for essentially anyone like trades, mainly trades. So we have to give 48 hours notice now. So previously it was 24 hours notice. So this is just sort of to help tenants, apparently it gives them sort of more quiet enjoyment at the property. So for example, if you've got a trade attending the property to like a simple leaking tap, unless otherwise agreed to with the tenant, we do have to provide the 48 hours, which is the 2 days. So it doesn't really make a lot of practical sense, really, because at the end of the day, it's going to delay repairs for the tenant to actually enjoy their property. Our biggest thing for that is if you've got your own trades, definitely let them know of this because they may not be aware. Some people just have specific trades that they like to use, especially if you're self-managing. So that's probably our biggest tip there, is just to make sure that everyone going into the property knows the legislation. Then the second one is limited entry notices once a vacate is issued. So essentially we can only enter the property twice in a 7-day period when someone has told us they're vacating. So this is just for more privacy for the tenant. However, it does disadvantage the owner, unfortunately. When we're reletting the property, if we want to do like 2 inspections to show people through, and then you also want to arrange quotes or maintenance to be attended to, we can only do 2. So maybe it means we do 1 inspection if the quote or the invoice, if the quote or the work really needs to get done. What I think we can do is have them attend at the same time, though. So maybe if we've got a trade really needing to go through, we can just do our inspection at the same time. So I think that's how we're going to navigate that one moving forward. There is number 3 is a prescribed rental application form. So this is they're just trying to bring in a standardized form for everyone to use. So currently agencies and owners can ask for any documents when a tenant applies for a property. So the new legislation has been brought in to make sure it's the same across the board and make it easier for tenants for applying for properties. So we don't know too much about the form yet or what's going to be required. But we do hope that there's sort of some common sense when it comes to this, and it's not so heavily brought down into what a tenant can or has to provide. Because again, we still need to do our checks to make sure they're the right tenants. So fingers crossed. We'll definitely let you know once we have that form if there's any sort of issue or something that we're worried about. But I think moving forward, I think it'll be or not too bad. Another thing is keeping of the tenants' details when it comes to licenses and personal information. They want us to store it in a certain way as well, just to make it fairer for the tenant. The number 4, choice in application process. Renters will have the right to choose how they apply for a property, and this ensures that it's fair for all the tenants. So that one's not too bad. That should be fairly easy to manage. So that should be, pretty easy for everyone to go. Number 5, disclosure of financial benefits. So any financial incentive from payment platforms for rent to the tenant needs to be disclosed to the tenant. So referring back to the payment platforms we mentioned earlier, where tenants are charged a fee for making rental payments. agents now must disclose to the tenant if they're receiving any kind of commission from these platforms. And this is just mainly for transparency, just to make things fair for the tenant as well. And lastly, fixtures and personalization to the property, which is probably the most interesting one, more exciting. They're bringing in a revised process for the tenant to request fixtures and structural changes in writing. And this is to the managing party, and then the managing party must reply within 28 days. So this is just introducing a set way for a tenant just to ask for these to be done. Examples of fixtures and structural changes include picture hooks, locks, clotheslines, cable TV connections, air conditioners, electric vehicle chargers, above ground pools, carpets, TV antennas, and ramps. So this doesn't mean that they can do it without permission. So just even if it does go over the 28 days, it doesn't mean that they just get free reign over doing whatever they want to the property. It's just bringing in a way for them to ask. So it's it'll be sort of a bit more of an official form. So for example, if a tenant requests to put in an electric vehicle charger, this still needs to be approved by the owner. And even if an owner does approve it, you can still put stipulations on how they do it. So if they do come to you with that request, for example, you can say you only want it on the left side of the garage with the proper wall brackets. And then when they leave the property, they just need to get it back to normal with how it was when they found it. And that's completely fine to do, quite similar to what we have now. So if the tenant doesn't get an answer within 28 days, they can make an application to the tribunal, the QCAT tribunal in Queensland, to sort of help push things along. At Metro City, we really hope to not really get to that point. We'd like to be able to negotiate and to sort of get to a place where everyone's sort of getting what they want in a fair way. So this is important for property managers to be prompt with communication and to ensure the requests are handled quickly and efficiently. So we'll just move on with Shelby to the part 3, and she'll take it away.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Richard. So look, we just want to go through some practical steps to ensure compliance and to minimise risk with both the reforms that have come in September and those reforms that Richard just spoke about that are coming in May. So first thing first, obviously staying up to date with rental law changes is hugely important. We recommend that you regularly review Queensland rental reforms and updates. A great website to do this through is through the RTA website. That's where majority of these changes are posted and where you can usually get most of those updates as well. And obviously working with a property manager who keeps you informed of these changes is important. Number 2, review and update lease agreements. So just ensure that all leases are kept up to date with the latest legal requirements and clearly outline rent payment options and tenant responsibilities. Number 3, implement a strong compliance checklist. So the sort of things that you could include in this is ensuring bond lodgement is within required timeframes, provide multiple fee-free rent options, and promptly pass on utility bills. Number 4, improve tenant communication and transparency. So provide clear expectations on property maintenance and inspections and educate your tenants on their rights and responsibilities. It's always great as well to educate your tenants on the current market, especially when it comes time to lease renewals. If you are putting an increase on a property, it is really important to educate that tenant as they're more inclined to be open to that increase when they have the correct information about the market as well. Number 5, maintain and inspect your property regularly. So obviously conducting regular routine inspections is key, and scheduling routine maintenance to avoid costly repairs. Number 6, keep accurate and secure records. So store rental applications and personal information securely. Document all maintenance requests, rental payments, and lease agreements. And lastly, seek professional support. So obviously, working with a qualified property manager ensures that you have the right team supporting your investment. But then obviously there's services outside of that as well, such as like finance, legal and conveyancing, depreciation reports. We do at Metro City here have an excellent partner network. So if you are looking for any support outside of the services that we can provide, we can always team you up with somebody to assist in that area as well. And for our landlords, again, that are joining us tonight, our team has already begun updating our processes and communication to ensure that everything is in line with this new legislation that is coming into effect. And we also conduct weekly training sessions for our team to ensure that everybody is informed and confident in managing these new changes as well. Obviously, having a proactive approach allows us to navigate these reforms smoothly, which in turn gives you a stress-free transaction for you and your tenants as well. Perfect. So I will move on to the questions. So obviously this is a great opportunity for, if you've got any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat or feel free to take yourself off mute and ask the questions. I did see that one has already come through from Michael. So can the tenant agree to trades coming in earlier than 48 hours? Absolutely, Michael. So all of our tradies, whenever we pass them on a work order, they can communicate directly with the tenant to organise a time to go through the property. Obviously, if they're unable to communicate that accordingly, that's when they'll usually reach back out to us, and we'll then issue that entry notice, which will then have to be that 48-hour period. Perfect. Did we have any other questions at all?
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thanks
okay.
for the response. Thank you.
No other questions? That's okay.
The other thing I'll say,
sorry,
is we are recording this one. So if you sort of wanted to take some notes and maybe we went too quick, or you just want to just clarify some things, just let us know, and we can send you the recording.
Perfect. Yeah, if you do want to go into further detail with any of the stuff that we've brought up today, you've got our details here on screen as well. So feel free to reach out to myself or Richard, and we would be happy to explain in greater detail for you, any of the stuff that we've mentioned tonight. But what we will also send through for you guys is a quick guide to the Queensland Rental Reforms cheat sheet. So this will have a summary of key dates and changes, easy reference for property owners, and also some helpful links in there. So we have included a link to the reletting cost breakdown, so you can get more of an understanding of what that looks like moving forward. There's also a calculator there for reletting costs calculator. And there's also the form for the structural changes request as well. So that just gives you all a bit of an idea of what that will look like moving forward. And then we're also offering free property health check. So for our landlords, this is something that we already do provide to you. But if you do find there is areas that you'd like Richard or I to assist you with further, or for anybody that's out there that isn't a current landlord of ours, we'd love the opportunity to go through these with you to make sure that you're confident with this new legislation that's coming into effect, that you are going to be covered with everything. Perfect. Well, thank you all so much for joining us tonight. And yeah, if anybody needs anything further, feel free to reach out and we would be happy to assist in any way that we can.